Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to today's Train Sim World 2 live stream. We are on the Oakville subdivision in the Canadian National GP38-2s. We are going to be doing this service here, the Hobson Street loading. We're going to take some tank cars over, fill them up, bring them back, and then we'll be done. So let's get in here and get things started up. Hopefully everybody's having a good Saturday. All right. Get everything switched on. Then we'll worry about unhooking the cars behind us. Lord. Gauge is on. Up there. We're not going to worry about our marker lights. Let's get your lights onto the front. We're going to uncouple right there. And I think what we're going to end up doing is we're going to kind of do a run around. Let's get the bell off there. All right, there we go. Yeah, so we're going to kind of do a run around. Hey, Mick. Hello, Chris. And we're going to kind of do a quick run to here. Let's get this switch set. And then I think we're gonna connect up. Yeah, so yeah, just something a little different than what we normally do. Hello, Patrick. Good morning. We got two GP38s today. Sometimes we get a GP38 and the GP9RM. Now it's important that we always check our switches, because this one, some of these areas are all manual and it's easy to forget. So always check your switches there. All right, so we are going to back up. We're going to switch here. Make sure our switches are set. There we go. Throw it into reverse. So hopefully everybody's having a good Saturday so far. So just a quick reminder, we'll be flying later on this morning. We'll be on the East Coast in Florida. We're going to go from Miami to Fort Lauderdale to Sebring. I was thinking about adding another stop, but I looked. That's the great thing about starting to kind of figure out some of these, or learning some of these airports and stuff. And I'll say, hey, hello, Josh. I'll send you a link later on when I'm done, Mick. There's a database or a website that you can plug in any airport. So let's say you want to know about San Francisco International. So you plug in San Francisco and it'll give you the list of airports that are either there or in the immediate area, right? And you find San Francisco International, or you could just plug in the airport identifier that's KSFO, and it'll bring you up. It'll tell you a whole list of stuff about that about that airport, like, you know, is it towered, is it not, what are the operating hours, that sort of stuff. Its latitude, longitude, the elevation of the airport, all kinds of information. So I was looking at, there's this little island, Bimini, I think it's called. It's got a small airport, but when I looked at the information, it didn't seem, and I looked at photos, and it didn't seem like a very good place to try to land. So I thought, well, okay, we won't, because I was like, oh, a little bit of island action, maybe, that'd be cool. No, maybe sometime we'll do a flight from, if I could, one of these things I want to try to do is learn to fly the seaplanes. So there is a seaplane strip there in Miami along the harbor there, I guess. If we could do that and then fly to like the Bahamas, I think that would be pretty cool. So, you know, try to land on water. So I'm sure that's a bit more difficult than landing on a runway. So, because you have to, you know, reverse your engines, and, you know, you can't hit the brakes necessarily because there's nothing, you know. So I did also do, they have, it's additional, it costs you, I don't know how much, but it teaches you how to fly the Airbus A320neo. And so I did that last night, towards when you were finishing up, Mick. It's really informative. It's much easier to fly than somebody might imagine. So I really enjoyed that. And you can replay it as many times as you want, you know, until you feel comfortable with it. It doesn't hurt to get more information or whatever. But yeah, if you're so I did that, and then stop here. All right, so we are going to connect to those tankers there. All right, going forward. So it looks like basically what we're going to do is we're going to push these tanks into the loading facility instead of trying to, because we won't fit all the tank cars in there for loading. So that's why we're coming in this way, and then we're going to go up to our loading facility up here, it looks like, and then we're going to come back here. So yeah, it's once you kind of get used to things, but there's one aspect of it that didn't make sense, and I had to keep fidgeting with it until I think I finally got it, because I thought I was hitting all the right stuff, and then I wasn't, and it didn't really prompt me to until I just was like, well, let me try doing this way, and then yeah, it all worked out in the end. But yeah, it's all pretty much automated. You know, the only thing you got to worry about is takeoff and landing, dialing in any course changes or altitude changes. But once it's all in the auto, and then you just, if you're doing what they call the ILS system, it'll give you all the information, and you just plug that into the little computer thing, and it makes all the adjustments. Yeah, really. It was, once I finally kind of got the hang of it, it was pretty cool. So yeah, yeah, I was looking at that airport, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I really want to fly into there. But yeah, maybe one day we'll do or maybe we'll just take off from Miami Executive and fly down to the Bahamas or something. But yeah, pretty soon, I'm hoping by next month we'll do our first flight. We'll do a flight from San Francisco International to Las Vegas. And yeah, that should be, it's about an hour flight. So we'll do that. We got the brakes a little too early there. That's a tricky part about switching and all that kind of stuff. It's easy to either you're going too fast or you're not going fast enough. Alright, we are connected. I don't think we need those bright lights, oops, up front there. Turn off the ditch lights. There we go. We just got the one there. That should be sufficient. Alright, so let's see. Let's make sure our switch is still set. There and there. Alright, so we are going to follow that along here. Let's double check all our switches before we start moving. Oh, I'm going to miss that one. There. There. I don't know why there's a switch there, because there's nothing off to either side, it seems. So, alright, so we are going to pull right all the way in right there. This thing moving. Have me a little sip of coffee. Oh well, yeah, Mick. I'll do all those training scenarios. It's a little at first it can be a little bit daunting, you know, because you can't really utilize all the assists that we normally would be able to use. And I struggled, especially as we were coming into the descent part was fairly manageable. It was on the approach that I was dialing in the information for our ILS stuff, and I had to figure out how to zoom in enough so I could read it, because I was literally almost right in front of the TV trying to figure out how to read this stuff so I could pick the right information. So, you know, if you're struggling and you're not getting it right away, just restart. You know, I restarted a boatload of times until I finally got it. So, yeah, it's not the A380, it's the 320 that came. I think it was one of the ones that came in the game already. And the great thing about, and I'll show you guys, maybe Monday that's what we'll do. What do you call it? Like the pilot who created this whole training thing for the game explains like the thought process behind the A320 and why you leave things in a certain you leave the throttle in the CL position, right? The climb, but when it's in autopilot, the thrust management manages all that stuff. So it's supposed to be more fuel efficient, essentially. So yeah, they talk. The pilot talks about a lot of the systems and why things are the way they are, and the slight difference between, you know, some of the things that I didn't know, the difference between the A320 and, you know, like the Boeing aircraft. So yeah, it seems to be a very easy. Once you kind of get things figured out, it seems like it's really easy to fly. You just let the plane do all the flying. Oh, where the landing so basically, so there's our first tanker, and then up here, so the first one will stop there. So it has markers. Now I would imagine that you would have, if this was real life, we would have somebody on the ground, or we would stop, and maybe the assistant driver or somebody would hop out, and you would they would have a radio, right? And they would be talking to the driver, telling the driver to, the engineer, to pull forward a little bit more, when to stop. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just saying, Josh. But yeah, for us, we can look and we can line up. We know, but the tricky part is getting. Now, I don't think we will have to actually physically go up on the platform and hit the load button and all that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of like it's an automated system once we pull in. Once we get things kind of lined up. But yeah, I would think that they would have somebody on the ground there already waiting, or the second operator or somebody else would be running up there and with the radio and saying, okay, yeah, let's bring it in a little bit, line up a little bit more. Yeah. Matter of fact, we can change. We can even go up here with the camera and see where we're at. So as we pull in, we'll be able to line up this first tanker, and then everything else should line up after that. All right, Ro, well, that's good. I'm glad you're going to be buying it. I'm sure most everybody's going to be buying it. There's plenty of options out there if you only want one of the routes, if you want them all, if you want 2 of the 3, whatever. Plenty of options. Oh yeah, Chris, that's that second jab is the one that kind of knocked me out. I was pretty tired. Like, I got home and I was okay, but then like about 3 or 4 hours later, I was just like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna go to bed early, and Well, okay, well, good for you. Some people are going to just buy one particular route. That's the great thing about hats off to Dovetail. They're giving the players enough options so that you can get all the routes. You can get if you just want 2 of the 3, I think they were smart the way they did it. And that's good, giving people options. All right, so our loading dock, or not loading dock, but our it's going to be on the right hand side here. So we're going to be on the left of the tanker as we come in. Yeah, I heard about the horn. I heard it sounds amazing. I've not watched any of the live streams about stuff because, unfortunately people get absolutely ridiculous in those live streams with their questions and everything. So, horn, what it sounds like, I'm I'm here to, just enjoy it. If the horn is a little bit off, I'm not. That's not a deal breaker for me. But if I know people are excited about horns. That's their thing, for whatever reason. So, I've heard it sounds amazing. That's great that they've gotten that right. For some people, that's a very important thing. I'm just here to enjoy things regardless of horn sounds or engine sounds or anything like that. I mean, as long as there is an engine sound, I don't care. But yeah, I heard all about it. Well, good for you, Ro. I'm not one of those people. I can assure you. I don't mind giving it to the horn every once in a while, but I am not a horn person. That's not what I focus on in this game. Alright, so we're almost there to the end of our platform here. This is the little bit tricky part. So in here, in the scenarios, you can do a tank loading scenario, but you really have to be spot on with the lineup of the. So what you basically want to do is you want to get the little platform there. Okay, see, it says we completed, right? Well, we still got to move forward. Now I went too far. Alright, let's back this up just a bit. It says wait for 20 minutes, but I'm going to try to get this lined up a little bit better. Because you want to try to get this. All right, right there. Stop. Right there. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now it should do all that stuff automatically. So we're all lined up. So basically, on the scenario where you do this, you have to come up. You have to hit all these switches. You have to open this up, and then you have to start the pump and everything, the control panel, and then you got to bring this thing over. You got to put that on there and all that. The workings in the steam train, but we can't have it all now. What do you mean, Mick? You can't have it. What? I'm not sure what you mean. Has something happened? Has steam been put on the back burner now? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure I understand. All right, so we have to essentially wait. This whole process is going to be about 20 minutes. And then it'll give us the thing done. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Nick. Well, and I would think, and that was something that a lot of people were wondering about, is, so if you have a steam locomotive, I mean, oh, well, yeah, I think that would be a great challenge in the game. The difficult part is, and I think we could use the flight sim analogy as well. What level of immersion are we, is going to be something that is going to be reasonable for. Good morning, Daniel. Yeah, exactly, Josh. Yeah, in the scenario you do, but not in the service. You just park it, and it basically does it for you. But it doesn't have the animation of everything opening and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a lot of switches, or not switches, but levers, and you got to keep the steam pressure up. That's a lot of stuff to deal with. Now, I think maybe if you were on the, on the computer, I think you have a better chance of being able to do all that, right? But it's hard to say. So yeah, it's a lot of finessing the controls and keeping the steam pressure built up and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how that's gonna work out on a console. But it's gonna take quite a bit of time, I think, for people to get used to that, because it's fairly simple to hop into one of these and throw 3 switches, put this thing in, and then it's not that difficult. But overall it's not super hard. But yeah, Steam is going to be, I think, is going to be a pretty complicated process to learn. But once you master it, I think it's going to be a blast. But you're going to have a lot of people, I think, who are going to be initially excited, and then when it doesn't exactly go easy, then I think people are going to end up getting frustrated. They're going to rage quit. They're going to want a refund. The usual stuff. So yeah. Well, I don't know that multiplayer would even resolve it, to be honest, Mick. I don't know. I mean, I guess it would, but I don't know that multiplayer is the answer to the problems either. I'm a bit hard pressed to. Let's see what. This is the rear tree. Oh, I gotta turn the lights on. Put some lights on this thing. Okay. There we go. Yeah, because then I think what you're going to have is you're going to have people fussing over, well, it's my turn to do this, and you did the, it's going to get kind of childish in some respects, Not everybody's going to want to do the boring stuff, and, that's my only concern about the, But, I mean, maybe detailed. Yeah, I think they will. That's one thing that they're working on, is more tutorial sort of, this is how you do this. But there's a lot of people who just bypass all that, Patrick. They don't want to do the all that work, essentially. They feel like they just want to get in there. And that's the great thing too about trains, flight simulator, you can essentially get in an aircraft and fly. And you don't have to do the tutorials, but it helps. But a lot of people just don't want to be bothered with that. They want to be able to do, like I took the time last night to start learning the A320. Because I'm like, eventually I want to do one of those, start flying the jets. And, it can be a bit overwhelming, but if you spend the time and you work at it, it's a very rewarding experience. So I think that's going to be the same thing with the Steams. It's going to be a bit overwhelming at first. You're going to have some people who are going to get all fussy about it because they felt that, this is too complicated, I can't deal with this, and they're going to give up, and they're going to want refunds because they feel like they kind of got bamboozled, and But at the same time, I think Dovetail is going to try to make it somewhat of a challenge, but they're going to try. Where do you find the balance? Of making it challenging, but also not so much that people are going to get super frustrated with it. I think that's going to be the difficult part. Oh, you know what? I never checked to make sure that we were... Yeah, okay, we are in the leader. Okay. I totally forgot to even... I didn't even think about that. Because sometimes it's not set correctly. This little switch here for your MU2A valve. Sometimes it will be in the other position. So before you move, always check that. Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that, Patrick. Yeah, you do. But, we have a lot of people who can't quite... the notion of actually doing, doing the work, essentially, learning the systems, and if you fail the first... Who cares? Like, like when I crashed that plane the other day, right? Going down to Little River Airport. I crashed. It's not the end of the world. I didn't, throw my controller down and go off in a huff. But you have people that would do that. I think that's the unfortunate part. So yeah, it's very. But yeah, I think you're going to have some people who are going to expect it to be, I'll just be able to get in there and pull some levers and choo-choo, off you go. And when it's not that way, I know already, based on the way people act in other streamers' chats, that they are going to flip out. They're going to freak out. They're, so yeah, it's. Yeah, so they then have it in the option of turning things on and off for the train. Maybe then you won't need to worry about it. Then they can just do the stop and go keys. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I've always found in any game. You have hardcore players who want the most realism, or they want things to be as challenging as possible because they feel a reward for overcoming the challenge, right? And then you have, at the opposite end, you have casual gamers. People who want to come in and play a game, but they don't have a lot of time, but they want the same rewards as the hardcore players. Yes, there's plenty of people out there on YouTube who do videos. Dovetail Games does videos. They preview stuff. If you're not sure, watch that stuff. If you're like, yeah, I think I'll wait, it just seems like it's going to be more than I can handle, that's fine. You are not obligated. You don't have to buy the DLC right when it comes out. If you want to wait and see how it plays more, then do so. Don't just go like, I'm going to buy it, and then a day later you're like, oh, this sucks, and oh, they screwed me, and I want my money back. You know, there's plenty, like Josh said, there's plenty of people out there. So the key is, how do you balance what the hardcore gamer wants and what the casual gamer wants out of the game? The hardcore players are always going to say that the casuals are ruining it. It's never going to change. And the casual players are going to feel like the hardcore players always want more out of the game, and they just don't have the time to do all that stuff. And so they feel like, well, okay, then I guess I don't get any of the rewards. Even if I play for 1 hour a week, I don't get anything. So how do you balance it out? And I think there should be ways that you could have both. If you want to be a hardcore player, there should be a hardcore setting that doesn't impact the people who are just casual gamers. And vice versa. If the casual gamers want things and they want to feel like they're being rewarded for their time in the game, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if that's an hour a week. If that's what they can play, that's what they can play. That's not a bad thing. They're still willing to. They're buying the game. That's what counts. So I see it. I used to see it so many times in the forums for Destiny. I think there's probably still the same thing, and I've talked to the people I played Division 2 with. How do you balance? People like to play at the hardest setting. And I'm like, sometimes I'm okay with that. And other times it's like, well, I don't always want to do that. So I have to, so then it's like, oh, all right, then I'm just going to do things on my own. That's not really helpful either. But, some people, they don't want to go to the lowest setting because they want to level up. They want the challenge. Not everybody wants that all the time. So how do you that's the key. How do you get that stuff? How do you balance it out? You can turn the HUD off, so why not the setting up the loco at the start? I don't know. Well, so yeah. Well, okay, so we can turn the HUD off, right? Oops. But then the problem is you lose your cursor. So let's say we want to have the HUD off, but how am I going to engage the switches? That's something. If you want the HUD off for the most realism, you got to have a cursor or something so you can still turn your switches on. That's or you set it up and then you turn the HUD off, right? But even the problem too is that if you're doing passenger service, you have information up there in the top left that tells you, okay, yeah, you got to wait this long for your passengers to load, or you cannot depart until. So either you depart early, which you could get dinged for, because if you don't pay attention to the signal, not far down from the station, you could inadvertently run a red, and then you spat it, and now you got to start all over again. So, and I know people like to drive. There's lots of players I know, or not lots, but I know one in particular. Joe loves to drive without the HUD on. Now, he won't do it for all the lines, but he'll do it for the UK lines. He'll do it for the German lines. That's his challenge. And, if it's one of those things that if you do it enough times, you'll be fine. But people, I like to keep the HUD on because it shows information that, if you guys have questions or what's going on with this, the information's right there for you to view. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I like the idea of coming in here in the beginning. Okay, I got to make sure all my switches are set, because you can't expect that everything's ready for you to just arrive and drive. That's the tricky part. I do too. I like having the HUD on because when I'm out here, I know what's going on. Now, of course, in real life, the driver is not going to drive the train from a drone out here. That's not very realistic. How I play the game is not realistic in any sense of the word. I like to be outside. I like to show the scenery, all that kind of stuff. I keep doing that, and I apologize. I don't know why I keep doing that. But, there's not much you can see from in here. Your view here is limited. Your view over there is very limited. Our view back there is limited. Right? So we have a very limited view of the world. Now, of course, that's realistic. When they change it, we're going to go back to driving with our head outside the window. Within reason, of course. But I used to do it on Peninsula Corridor. All right, we finally got our stuff loaded up. So we are heading back to, let's double check our switches, make sure nothing got changed while we were sitting there. We're going to go back along here, right back to where we were. Our switches are all set still. We're going to go in reverse. But and that's the great thing about this game. If you feel comfortable with the HUD on, that's okay. Nobody can take that away from you, or nobody should be insulting you and saying, "Oh, you're a weirdo for wanting the HUD on all the time. It's not, what's wrong with you? That's not very realistic." Well, if that's how you enjoy the game, then so be it. If you enjoy the game with the HUD off, that's your prerogative. That's the great thing about this game. There's, what your level of immersion is in the game is up to you, not anybody else. People can make suggestions or make demands or whatever all day long, but at the end of the day, you play the game how you want to play. And same thing with Flight Sim. Some people, they want to touch every knob in the plane, in the cockpit, flight deck, whatever you want to call it. They want to be able to make all those adjustments, and I'm going to turn this on, and you get the little tingle. Ooh, look, I started this, and ooh, it's working. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But there's people like me. Hey, we're just going to start on the runway, and eventually we're going to start doing the checklist stuff as we step into the larger aircraft, and we want to do the startup. We want to do the, requesting the pushback and all that kind of stuff. We want to, because that's, I think that would add a level of fun to it. It will take time, which means the stream will be longer, but I think it would be a much more, and maybe we do that like on a weekend versus a weekday, because we have more time, I think, on a weekend. I push all the buttons, but I don't know what they do. Hello, Mela. Yeah, I was looking at it. I mean, a lot of stuff you can't fidget with, because there's so many buttons in there, like you could easily get lost. And I had to, the great thing about that tutorial, Mick, if you do decide to buy it, I think you would really enjoy it. you could download the manual, and you could follow. The manual explains most of the stuff as you're going through the training as well. So you can read about it ahead of time if you want. Or you just go in and go like, oh, I'm just gonna follow along. But you could have that up at the same time, and that's what I was doing yesterday, because I was like, all right, there's all these buttons he's talking about, and I don't know where they are, because they don't give you any clue. You have to, so it shows you where the corresponding buttons are during each phase of the tutorial. And the great thing is, they even show you, like, okay, what if you have engine failure? What are you going to do? So that adds, but yeah, eventually we're going to start doing flights. I think by next month we'll yeah, it's worth the money, I think, Nick. And you can download that manual and use it while you're going through the tutorial stuff. Because it's under, like, the... matter of fact, when we go to Flight Sim later on, I'll show you where it's all at. It's not in the normal flight training stuff. They put it under the activities, under Bush. I think it's Bush flights or whatever. So, yeah. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. But that's the great thing about that game and this game. How much you want to put into it is entirely up to you. Your level of comfort in all the stuff that happens, it's entirely up to you. So, yep, we're almost done here. So that took a bit of time for all the stuff to kind of load up. Oh, I got 5 likes. Well, thank you all. Appreciate that. So yeah, it's not. That's the longest part about this service, is waiting for the tanks to load up. I would think in real life the engineer would have ran up here to this train and use this as the lead locomotive, but we're fine where we're at. So, well, hopefully everybody's enjoyed this. We had a nice conversation about different playing styles and abilities, and it's good. So yeah, we got the big update coming next week before the release of Rush Hour. That's going to be really good, I think. I read the patch notes, and yeah, a lot of information in those patch notes. A lot of information. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the game plays after that update on Tuesday. I'm guessing it's going to be on Tuesday. But either way, whenever we get it, I'm looking forward to seeing how the game looks. We'll buy the Seasons Pass on the 1st of September, and yeah, go from there. Really looking forward to trying out the Northeast Corridor, Boston to Providence. Not sure how fast my curiosity is going to be how fast is it going to play. But we're getting 2 locomotives with that, the AC-64 I think it is, and a different version of the F40PH, which apparently has better brakes than the one on Peninsula Corridor. Yeah, good stuff. All right, we're almost there. Wow, I just put it into initial brake and look how quickly we slowed down. Now, that's one thing that I wonder if that's something they factor in, because now in theory we have loaded tankers, which is way more weight than they were unloaded. Now I wonder if the dynamic was, I mean, normally we, with heavy tankers like that, full of fuel, I don't know that initial braking would be enough to slow everything down that quickly. I was just thinking about that because, right now our weight should have increased, meaning that we would need more braking power to slow down or stop, or we would need more throttle to get moving. There we go. All right. Ah, silver, I knew it. Probably, I'm going to guess here, and I don't really know. I'm guessing because we had to move the tankers, we were trying to get everything lined up. That's probably what gave us that silver, I'm thinking. But, oh well. It is what it is. Anyway, that's going to be it for right now. I will see you in about an hour and a half on Flight Simulator. We'll go over a bunch of stuff, and then yeah, should be a good flight. Yeah, exactly, Mick. But oh well. I was just curious. I wonder how they factor in the if you have all those tankers full, I would think the weight would be significantly different, but what do I know? Anyway, I'll see you all later on. Silver colored gold. Yeah, I wish. In about an hour and a half, like I said, Flight Sim.